Hello, Gabriel here, just with a quick video on driving at 7/10 because I've heard it. I think most people know the phrase by now. It's quoted a lot, maybe from time to time on WRC or various YouTubers, and actually there's not a lot of people that say how to do it. There's a lot of people that just like, oh, you just drive a bit slower, and everything's hunky-dory because you keep the car on the road. Well, how do you drive slower? How do you program yourself to drive slower? Because it's, once you get behind that wheel and you throw the car into a corner, well, there you go. You just threw it into the corner. You didn't you didn't approach it in a sort of consistent, slower fashion. So we all do it. We all just go, right, we're just going to nail it and see what happens. And if I fall off the road, well, damn. So I'm going to give you some tools, some thoughts, driving at 7/10. The footage you're seeing is me playing Master Difficulty Championship Finland in a Citroen C4, and basically, I'm out in front by about 30 seconds or something, so I really want to maintain that lead. I'm not really looking to gain any more time, just looking to carry that advantage to the end of the rally, basically. Okay, so let's start it up and see what's happening. So, not too much to talk about on the approach through this section. It's pretty flat out. I think I'll show it from this view because we can see what's going on with braking input. And you'll see I am on the brakes an awful lot through that section. If anyone's wondering, I've got the brake bias to the front, especially on Finland. That's really helpful because it's great for bringing the nose of the car down and keeping you in a straight line, and stabilising the car over lots of the bumps and jumps and stuff. So as you can see, I'm never really off the throttle through this section, but I'm just using the brakes to kind of guide the car back to a sort of straight facing position. So you can see that if I feel the car kind of jumping around too much or facing the wrong direction, I'm on the brakes to sort of straighten out the car. Another point is that I'm braking the corner is miles away. It's over here, for goodness sake, it's absolutely miles away. And I'm stabilising and thinking about slowing the car down from here for absolutely miles away. So it gives you so much sort of extra time to think about what you're doing, because what you could do is brake really hard on the brakes, just before the corner. So for this corner I could probably step on the brakes really hard right here, and it would probably be enough to I probably wouldn't have to think about touching the brakes again. But no, I'm actually thinking about slowing the car a little bit from back here, because the more gentle our entry to the corner, the more time we've got to think about what we're doing. Okay, so I've talked a lot now about corner entry on the brakes. We're going to talk about corner exit. So here again, lots of gentle braking around the corner, and you can hear that I was a bit worried about the car sort of just sliding off into that Bridgestone sign. So I'm actually pretty much completely off the throttle, sort of waiting for the car to get in a sort of straighter line. So you can see there I'm slightly over-rotating the car as well, sort of pointing it more towards the inside of the road, just to really mitigate any or chance of me just doing a nice straight going nice and straight off the road to the left. So being patient with the throttle on corner exit and through corners is really useful. Okay, a road in especially in Finland moves from side to side and up and down, and what I mean is it goes over jumps. You know, the road goes through corners and it goes up and down as well. So what I want you to do is to sort of program your brain to start thinking of these crests, these jumps, as like sort of, I don't know how best to explain it, but just like a corner, really. So when you're approaching a corner, you brake, don't you, to go around the corner. When you're approaching a jump, depending on the jump, you should probably think about braking. I mean, if you look at the WRC boys, they're almost never completely flat over a jump. Like, for example, like Collins Crest recently in Sweden. You know, Mads jumped for, what was it, 42 yards, something like that, meters. I can't remember how they do it. Anyway, but I don't think he was the fastest through the stage, and he was almost, you know, it wasn't flat out through that, over that jump, and it's a fair jump. Most people are interested in getting the car back down to the ground because that's where it's most stable, predictable. You're getting the acceleration and power out of the car because the tyres are actually in contact with the surface of the road. So what I want to think about is, how big is this jump? Is it, you know, am I going to just damage the car unnecessarily if I do it flat out? Or is it better to brake and tighten the angle of my descent in the same way that we'd brake to tighten our line through a corner? Okay, and here, using brakes to stabilise the car before jumps, little bumps, really, really useful little technique. You'll see it a lot when I land. I'll be on the brakes, and what it will do is sort of force the car to straighten out. Brilliant technique that for driving in Finland. So you land on throttle and some brake, and the car will just sort of feel kind of stiff for a moment, but it should pretty much stay in a straight line. Now, if that doesn't quite work for you, you're doing it wrong, or you're in a car that doesn't like it. Here's a good example of me being hasty with the throttle. I'm driving at about 10/10 for a moment here. So watch what happens. The braking's okay. It's about mid to late corner that I'm just a bit hasty with the throttle. It's a very small mistake. It probably only cost me like a half of a tenth, but still, it could have been worse. So the approach was pretty good. Braking nice and early, turning in gently, and here the car's actually a bit destabilised by a bump, and I'm just full on the throttle. You can hear because I'm just bouncing off the rev limiter quite happily, and it sort of just rotates the car to the left because of the traction on the, you know, there's one of the tyres isn't actually touching the floor, so the other tyres are just like, ooh, let's go off in this direction. They'll do that to you. Again, jump, still on the throttle, and I'm braking to stabilise, balance out the car, and also because I'm thinking about I want to bring the weight down to the road because that's where it's happiest. You know, the cars aren't designed to actually fly through stages. Now this is a very deceptive corner. Most people might remember it. I think it says it's deceptive in the notes. I can't remember. If it doesn't, it should. So basically, it's a 4 right over a crest with, I'm pretty sure there's a post on exit. Yeah, you can see that post. This post just to my left right here. Now that has caught me out a billion times. So as you can see, what I'm doing is throttle and brake really far away from it on the approach, just to really stabilise and slow the car nice and early, just to give me loads of time to think about it. I'm really just sort of feathering the throttle just to kind of keep the car going in a sort of forward fashion, really. So now this corner says something like a 3 left, tightens with rocks on exit, something like that. What it should say is double caution, don't go wide. Something like 3 left over crest, down with rocks on exit, double caution is probably what I'd be saying to my driver from about here. So I have that as a sort of mental note to really take a corner like that tight, because what's really easy to happen is you go over this crest, you get a bit loose, the rear just gets away from you and you're in those rocks. So what I do is treat it like a triple caution, and I'm just really careful on the gas and really early on the brake through this section until I feel like I can be fairly hard on the throttle and not worry about losing the rear of the car. Here's a fantastic example of losing speed to gain speed immediately afterwards. So we go over this crest gently and then just use the fact that we're on a downhill in 4th gear to gain up just loads of speed. We didn't need to full throttle it over the jump. We kept the car down on the ground and we just throttle like mad as soon as we land, because we know that we can. From this view you can really hear my throttle input better actually. But you can't see the braking, so big jump, lots of braking before, and even that was a bit fast. Now again through this section, lots of jumps, lots of braking on landings to keep the car in a straight line, and as you can see from here, not actually losing any speed. So I don't really drop below about 105, even though I'm on the brake that much, because I'm also riding the throttle at the same time. You can hear I'm really patient over that caution crest. Now, also worth noting that while I was being that careful throughout the whole stage, with that run I actually set the 159th best time so far. Now, for career mode, master difficulty, that is very, very acceptable. That's gonna, you're gonna trounce the AI with that, that world time. So we can be safe, we can be flowing, we can be fast, we can be on the brake a lot to stabilise and give ourselves time to think, and also being patient with the throttle on corner exit in particular. So looking where you want to go and then just thinking, right, is it safe for me to just nail the throttle now, and going, yes, now it is, and then give it as much throttle as you want, put your foot through the floor. So for any more questions, please do ask, and I hope you find this little tutorial helpful. Alright, cheers, bye.